The Book of Zero. A long shadow stretches across Christendom. Decades have passed since the scholar Pope, Sylvester II, returned from the borders of Andalusia, bearing strange knowledge gleaned from the Moors. Numerals of Hindu and Arabic origin, elegant ciphers promising swift calculation. But Europe, steeped in the cumbersome Roman system and the mysteries of faith, recoiled. These symbols, particularly the unsettling cipher, the mark for emptiness, for nothing, were deemed unnatural, instruments of infidel magic or demonic deceit. Whispers followed the numerals like a curse, associating them with forbidden arts and dark calculations. While the seeds of this new arithmetic lay dormant, feared and misunderstood, the old ways persisted. In the heartlands of France, monasteries stood as bastions of knowledge, yet guarded their wisdom jealously, wary of any novelty that might challenge the established order of God and man. Brother Alderick, the clumsy friar, had not always been a mere servant of the monastery. In his youth, he had shown such promise with letters that the abbot himself had selected him for training as a copyist. His quick mind had mastered reading in both Latin and Greek, and his memory for scripture was unmatched among the novices. But God, in his infinite wisdom, had seen fit to curse Alderick with the hands of a plowman rather than a scribe. 3 precious manuscripts had been ruined by his careless spills of ink before the abbot lost patience. He was relegated to the kitchens and cleaning duty, forbidden from touching yet another book. Brother Alderick, the abbot had proclaimed before all, better you should scrub pots than destroy the word of God with your clumsiness. 10 years had passed since that humiliation. At 32, Alderick's once bright hopes had dimmed to acceptance of his station. The monastery of St. Martin de Champs operated like all others. Strict hierarchy separated those who worked with their hands from those permitted to work with their minds. Friars cooked, cleaned, and tended gardens. Monks prayed, studied, and preserved knowledge. Alderick had found small consolation in his assignment to clean the scriptorium each evening. Though he dared not touch the texts the monks labored over by day, he could at least breathe the familiar scent of parchment and ink, and sometimes, when no one was looking, run his fingers over the spines of bound volumes, remembering his lost ambitions. It was during such an evening cleaning that Alderick discovered the pile. In the far corner of the scriptorium, behind a wooden screen, lay a stack of manuscripts marked with red thread, the sign of heretical texts awaiting destruction. The monastery had recently received a collection from a deceased bishop's library, and the monks had been separating wheat from chaff. Alderick should have ignored them. The punishment for a mere friar reading condemned texts would be severe, most likely expulsion or even excommunication. Yet something drew him to the pile. Perhaps it was the memory of his earlier disgrace, or simple curiosity, but he found himself lifting the topmost volume. It was bound in plain leather, unmarked save for a single circle tooled into the cover, a perfect circle. Glancing nervously about the empty scriptorium, Alderick slipped the slender codex beneath his robe. That night, by the light of a stolen candle stub in his narrow cell, he cracked open the forbidden book. The text began not in Latin nor Greek, but in Arabic, which Alderick could not read. Yet interspersed throughout were passages in Latin and diagrams, strange circles and lines forming patterns that made his eyes ache. As he deciphered the Latin portions, his confusion grew. In the beginning was not the word, but numbers, read one passage. Before God was that there was geometry, and between point and line naught but null, and from this sacred nothing sprang all things. Even God. The text spoke of numbers as living entities, with zero as their deity. It reimagined the 6 days of creation as mathematical operations, with God not speaking the world into being, but calculating it. Adam and Eve's sin was not disobedience but division, the separation of unity into multiplicity. Most disturbing of all were the practical sections, instructions for manipulations of reality through what the author called the invocation of null sets. These passages claimed that by contemplating perfect nothingness, one could paradoxically gain control over everything. Heresy, clearly. Yet Alderick found himself returning to the text night after night, his mind afire with its impossible concepts. 3 months passed before Alderick gathered the courage to attempt the simplest invocation described in the codex. In the monastery's root cellar, surrounded by vegetables and far from prying eyes, he traced the circle of 0 in the dirt floor and positioned himself within it. The instructions were precise. He was to empty his mind completely, then visualize a specific mathematical pattern, a straight line. Then divide it into 3 equal parts, erasing the middle one, and repeat the same process with the remaining lings, until there were no elements left, while maintaining perfect awareness of its boundaries. The null set is not void, the text had explained, but potential made concrete. It is the foundation upon which all existence rests. For hours, Alderick struggled to achieve the mental state described. His thoughts scattered like chickens in a yard, refusing the discipline required. Finally exhausted, he gave up and returned to his duties. But that night, as he lay on his pallet, something shifted in his perception. The darkness behind his closed eyelids seemed to organize itself into patterns, circles within circles, lines connecting nothing to nothing. And suddenly he understood. 0 was not absence. It was a doorway. His next attempt in the cellar succeeded beyond his expectations. Following the codex's instructions, he managed to invoke a minor manipulation, causing a single turnip to rotate in front of him. The effort left him drained and shaking, but elated. However, there was a cost he had not anticipated. When he returned to his cell that night, as he prayed for the well-being of his family, he found he could no longer remember his mother's face. The invocation of null requires nullification. The codex had warned in a passage Alderick had initially dismissed as metaphorical. What is created from nothing must be balanced by something removed from the invoker. As his experiments continued in secret, the pattern became clear. Each manipulation of reality, through the codex's mathematics, required a sacrifice of self. Small workings cost small memories, the taste of honey, the sound of a childhood song. Larger ones devoured more significant portions of his identity, his first love, the sound of the letter R, or how to tie his cincture. After he used the forbidden knowledge to multiply the monastery's stores of grain during a lean month, saving many from hunger without anyone detecting his intervention, he awoke unable to recall his own birth name. Only Alderick, his name in the order, remained. The monks noticed changes in him. Brother Alderick had become quieter, his movements more precise. The clumsiness that had been his downfall seemed to have vanished. Some attributed it to maturity or divine grace. But in fact so much of him had been already lost that he needed or used all his focus to accomplish even his smallest tasks. Only the abbot watched him with suspicion. "You seem different, brother," the old man remarked one day as Alderick scrubbed the chapel floor. "Your eyes carry a burden I have not seen before." "I am the same servant of God as always," Alderick replied, careful to keep his gaze lowered, as he no longer recalled the abbot's name or position. "See that you remain so," the abbot said. "Strange winds blow through Christendom these days." That night, Alderick returned to the codex with renewed passion. If the abbot suspected, his time might be limited. He turned to sections he had previously avoided, chapters that promised mastery over the elements themselves through what the heretical author called the ultimate equations of nothingness. By the summer solstice of 1054, Brother Alderick was no longer himself at all. His experiments had erased most of his personal history. He remembered his duties, his learning, and the mathematics of the codex, but little else remained of the man who had once dropped ink on precious manuscripts. What remained was purpose. The codex had revealed to him a final working, one that would require nearly all that remained of his selfhood, but would prove the ultimate truth of its teaching. On the warm and dry night of July 10th, Alderick slipped away from the monastery and climbed the highest hill in the valley. There, under the clear spring sky, he drew the most complex pattern yet from the codex: concentric circles of 0, an Apollonian gasket, connected by precise lines of equivalence and transformation. Standing at the center, he began the invocation, his mind reaching for the ultimate null set. As the mathematical patterns formed in his consciousness, he felt himself diminishing, memories flaking away like ash in a strong wind. His childhood gone. His years of study gone. His name gone. His awareness of his own body going. As he approached total self-nullification, his perception expanded outward, beyond Earth, beyond the sphere of the moon, beyond space and time, into the heaven itself. There, he found his target, a distant star, unremarkable among its countless brethren. With what little remained of his identity, he commanded, By zero, I command thee to become one with all. A request that reached about 6,523 years into the past. In the firmament, that star flared suddenly in brilliant defiance of the natural order. From Earth, it appeared as a new light in the sky, brighter than any save the sun itself, visible even during daylight for 23 days before slowly fading, taking more than 2 years to disappear completely. Astronomers across Europe, Arabia, and China recorded the phenomenon with wonder. In Constantinople, scholars debated its meaning. In Baghdad, mathematicians made calculations. In Rome, the Pope ordered prayers against the end of days. But none suspected the truth, that a simple friar with a forbidden book had made it so. Epilogue. They found him the next morning, collapsed on the hilltop, still breathing but unresponsive. Brother Alderick was returned to the monastery, where he lingered for another couple of months, unable to speak, his eyes tracking movements but showing no recognition. The abbot, searching his cell, discovered the heretical codex and immediately ordered it burned. As the flames consumed the leather-bound volume with its single embossed zero, he believed the danger had passed. Alderick died in the autumn, having never spoken another word. They buried him in the monastery cemetery without ceremony, his grave marked only with a wooden cross that would rot away within a decade, leaving no trace of his existence. Yet the star he had ignited continued to shine in distant memory. And in the centuries that followed, as Arab numerals slowly gained acceptance throughout Europe, despite the Church's resistance, the concept of zero gradually transformed Western thought. Philosophers and mathematicians would eventually speak of empty sets as the foundations of set theory, never knowing they echoed concepts from a burned heretical text. The void that was not bare but full potential would become central to human understanding of the universe. And sometimes, on clear nights when new stars appear where none were before, astronomers ponder the cosmic forces that might cause such phenomena, never suspecting that the answer may lie not in physical laws, but in the mind of a forgotten friar who learned that nothingness, properly understood, contains infinite mysteries.